Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Daily Football Roundup proudly brings to you the best damn podcast in the world, the 12-ounce Curl Route Podcast. I am your host, Aaron Current. You can find me on X at Aaron Current. My co-host, Kyle, can be found on there at DF Roundup. And Corey can be found via snail mail. What's going on, fellas? How we doing?
Well,
better than you, it sounds like.
Told Corey before we came on the show, I sent you guys over a parlay I had. 16 parlay. It was the 4 o'clock games, Sunday night football and Monday night football. I didn't put a lot of money on it. You know, I was being conservative like normal. And once again, the Green Bay Packers, my beloved Green Bay Packers, screwed me again. I had them on the money line, $5 to win $135. And that's the one that did me in. So I told Corey before the show, I said, I'm done betting on Green Bay. I don't care if they're playing my son's third grade football team. I'm not taking the Packers for anything anymore. I'll tell you, and I'm going to go ahead and get into this rant. You asked me how I'm doing, Aaron. I'm not doing good. I've gone the last 30 years knowing that we've had a quarterback under center. At 2 minutes left in the game, if we were down by 4, we still have a chance. Halfway through the third quarter, I sit here now and say, holy shit, we're not going to win this game. There's no way we're going to win this game. Stop after stop after stop for the defense, and Jordan Love can't get it going. Now, hopefully, since he's gonna be a Hall of Fame level quarterback sooner rather than later, give him a 1-year pass, and next year we're good. But you'll notice that I'm mourning the day after the week after the Packers lose. You won't catch me wearing my Jordan Love jersey. So I'm gonna guess I'll wear that 7 or 8 times this year on the show. And then other than that, I can't put it on.
I mean, you still got a Bears game coming up at the end of the year. You know, you can almost bet on that one. But
I'm not. I can't.
You did say something interesting there because you talked about betting with your heart and not your head. That is something I have learned quickly with sports betting finally passing in Kentucky. Kentucky the week before last beat the brakes off of Florida. I mean, beat them by 19, dominate them completely. I know this is an NFL show and I'm going off on a tangent here, but so I bet them plus 14.5 going down to Georgia. I said, screw it. I'll throw a little bit on the money line. Might as well. I mean, I'm going to make some money back if they do pull it off. Nope. They went down there and got absolutely embarrassed in Athens. So yeah, I'm kind of on the same road with you on that one, Kyle. I need to work on betting with my head more than my heart.
Well, I'm definitely with Aaron on this as far as UK win. I emotionally bet a little extra more money than I wanted to, but it was I thought we had a chance. Boy, was I wrong. And now that I also don't have a quarterback in the NFL, we're sucking for Caleb Williams, right? So I figured that I may pay more attention to college maybe a little bit.
Yeah, well, speaking of sucking for Caleb Williams, we can get right into our picks from last week. Thursday night football, the Chicago Bears traveled to Washington, and the Chicago Bears woke up and chose violence. They won 40-20. Myself and Kyle had Chicago plus 6. I will admit I didn't expect to win this game. I just wanted them to cover, and Corey went with Washington minus 6 at home. Thursday night football, prime time. Coming off a big emotional loss to the Eagles, I thought, Powell texted me. It was like, Chicago plus 6. He asked me, and I was like, I don't know, dude. I don't know if I would bet it. And he said, I'll just go watch the money line. And I said, that's probably a safe bet. I said that the day of. And then Thursday night happened. And, boy, there is a lot going on in Chicago. You guys want me to go off here, or you guys want to talk a little bit, and then I'll wrap it up with myself because
I don't feel like you can have a rant. I feel like you need to be like Santino Marella doing the trumpet in the background because your team finally got a win, Aaron. So you know what? Start us off because this is probably nothing but positive, and I want to hear it.
Yeah. Well, I came in here last week and I told you guys I was out on Fields. He was missing throws, and it was more a money decision than anything. Plus, we still, at this point, have the first 2 picks in the draft. So I was like, it makes sense financially to just move on and grab Caleb Williams. But I'm telling you, fellas, the numbers that Justin Fields has put up the last 2 weeks, and it's like last year when he went off, it was all rushing. He was running the ball really well. This year, it's through the air. And I mean, he had a connection with DJ Moore Thursday night that I haven't seen in Chicago since Cutler and Brandon Marshall. He was forcing it to him. There was the last touchdown he threw to him should have been picked. It should have been a pick six, but DJ Moore just pulled it off and then ran 50 yards down the field. And a big thing with this, I have been worried about our offensive line all year, and then I saw that defensive line for Washington, and I was like, how are we going to hold up against Chase Young, Jonathan Allen, which, by the way, he pile drive my quarterback into the ground, and we don't get flags, I guess. Deron Payne and Montrez Sweat on the other side. And I was like, how are we going to block these guys? But the offensive line held up. They ran the ball well. We came down to having a fullback as our starting running back in the fourth quarter running out the clock. And we were able to pull it off. I was very excited. I kept trying to go to bed because I had to work the next day, and I just could not go to sleep. So I was up till midnight watching that damn game. So excited for the Bears finally putting it together. I still don't know if I trust Eberflus as the head coach, but hey, if the Bears got a franchise quarterback, I don't know what they do. They've got a conundrum on their hands. If there's a franchise quarterback coming out in the draft and you can get a ton for that draft pick, if you land in that spot, you can get a ton for that draft pick and build around Fields, or you can turn the page and maybe bring in Caleb Williams and move on from that. I don't know what they'll do, but they've got some big decisions to make at Hallis Hall. But I was definitely excited to finally see the Bears step up offensively and defensively. Terry McLaurin did nothing against Greg Stroman. We had Jalen Johnson out, Eddie Jackson out. So our starting corners was rookie Tyreek Stevenson, rookie Terrell Smith, and Greg Stroman Jr. in the slot. And the way those players reacted to they like him, obviously. I mean, they played hard for him. Like I told you, Corey, Chris told me that about Eberflus when I called him about like, what am I getting from this head coach? He said they're going to play hard for him. And they showed that. And Eberflus has mixed it up a little bit. He blitzed a little, which thank you. Finally, we were the least blitzing team in the entire league. All of a sudden, he starts bringing some blitzes, getting some pressure. I mean, I don't want to get weeks 1 and 4. Aaron is ready to tear.
That's what I was laughing at, dude. Yesterday, you were burning your jerseys. You were doing.
I'm telling you guys, I've loved Justin Fields since he was drafted. I've got his jersey. I got white and blue. I've got his football signed. My son's got his jersey. I want nothing more than for this guy to succeed, but I hadn't seen it until the Broncos game, which he looked good. He was moving the ball around. He turned it over in the fourth quarter with the game on the line. It is what it is. And then last week, if he can build on that, that's a big decision for Chicago. And I'm glad I don't make the kind of money to make that decision, but that's a huge talking point for sure. I'll let you guys see what you saw in the game.
I'll go real quick. Mine was just that all the questions that I had about Washington, I think were pretty much answered. They're going to surprise a couple people, but that's about it. And then fantasy-wise, I had to play Fields and I had to play against DJ Moore on 2 different leagues. So that was fun. But congratulations, you got a dub. And a quarterback again.
One thing, since you brought up the Bears, that I just want to throw out there in the Brad Johnson Daily Football Roundup Fantasy Football League, Aaron decided to start DJ Moore and Jamar Chase, who both absolutely had a game, and he felt good winning against a 9-year-old. Aaron, I hope you're happy because you crushed the crusher and he was defeated. He looked the next day and he's like 40 points from DJ Moore. And then it got worse for him when Jamar had 50. Poor guy didn't even stand a chance. And that's fantasy football for you. But yeah, I mean, I even said last week, I said Chicago doesn't have to win this game for me to win this spread here. And they did more than just win this game. They added a lot more play action and things of that nature for Justin Fields, and it worked against Washington. It looked like it was working the week before too. And like you said, Aaron, 2 weeks in a row, Justin Fields has had good games. Let's just see if they can keep it going. But I'll tell you the same thing in week 6 now that I've been telling you before the season. As a Bears fan, you don't want them to win this year. You don't want them to win. If they start stringing wins together and they stick around with Eberflus, is that what you want? I don't think so.
I don't want
him
Eberflus.
gone.
I want an
Do you also want to be
coach.
picking in the teens and the tens for the draft, or would you rather be?
Well, we got Carolina's pick, who's sitting at number 1 right now. So
that's fine, but you could have 1 in 5 or 1 in 3 because you're going to trade out of 1 if Fields is Fields. And how far back are you willing to go to miss out on Marvin Harrison Jr., to miss out on these offensive tackles? You know, you don't want to fall too far back and completely miss on everybody.
Chicago's next 5 games.
All winnable.
Vikings home, Raiders home, at Chargers, at Saints, Panthers home.
All winnable.
So, if I was the Bears, I'd let the Panthers win that game. So, it evens out those draft stocks.
I don't know if the Panthers can win even when they're trying. I don't know what the deal is with that.
Yeah, that was an awful pick by me for a division winner. Oof.
Yeah, that might go down as all-timer.
That might be worse than my Broncos and the Chiefs finishing last year.
We'll move on to our next game, which happened in London. I'm going to refrain from using my accent again tonight.
The bloody Buffalo Bills playing against the bloody Jacksonville Jaguars in London.
Tottenham Stadium, 9:30 a.m. Jacksonville wins this game 25-20. Buffalo -5. I had Corey and Kyle both had Jacksonville +5.5. What are we like? Buffalo dominates the Dolphins and then goes across the pond and can't sneak it out against Jacksonville. I was watching this game because the Bears played Thursday, so I didn't have anything to do Sunday morning. I'll let you talk about it first. I don't know what the.
I think honestly, people talk about you'll travel this way, that doesn't matter. Home field doesn't matter. Okay, London Tottenham, whatever. That is Jacksonville's home. 1, 2. They were there for like 11 days. 3. Buffalo didn't leave till like Thursday or Friday, and they left the night, and then like flew through the night, and then slept some weird schedule or something, and then stayed up. Like that clearly had something to do with it. Versus Jacksonville, who has another facility over there, basically at this point, I'm sure.
Right.
Like, and
did you guys see? I saw a clip from the crowd, and there was a guy there in like a suit with a Jaguars face on, and like he was all about it. That was wild. But yeah, I mean, why would they leave third? Like, if you're going to London,
leave the day of.
Leave
like
Monday.
Baltimore. Yeah, Baltimore left. I don't think they left Sunday night after losing that horrible game to the Steelers, but I think they left Monday morning to go to London because they play next week. But the whole Jacksonville losing the game they've lost, was it to the Colts or the Texans I think. To me, that was a fluke. I think Jacksonville's good. And I mean, Buffalo's good too, but Milano is out for the year now.
Oh yeah, they're rough now.
And
Trey White went down.
Yeah. And they already have somebody else to start. Now, Vaughn did play, but he wasn't 100%. So I think you put all that stuff together. I mean, I still feel comfortable with Buffalo potentially getting to the Super Bowl, but it's okay if they lost this game. It's just Jacksonville, I think, is like that was a big spread for me considering they were over there for 2 weeks straight. But really, and I do think Jackson is like the fourth or fifth best team probably in the AFC.
Well, that's really where I sat in on it too. Is Aaron, you and I, we've traveled to Korea. We've gone across the country, and you know how those flights are. Just even when I got off the flight when I landed in Korea, I didn't know what time it was or what day it was. I just knew that I thought I was there. When I looked around, it didn't look like America anymore. It's a hard toll on your body. So for Jacksonville to be over there for 2 weeks or already a week, 11 days, however many days before they play their game. They have that advantage already. Now them winning, like Corey said, Jacksonville's a good team, I think, as well. And I even said at the beginning of the season, although he hasn't played like it, I thought Trevor Lawrence had a chance to win MVP this year. I don't really think he does now unless he just plays lights out for the next 12 weeks. But we'll see what happens with him.
Yeah, they kind of put the pieces around him to help him succeed with Calvin Ridley coming back this year and Christian Kirk, who everyone shit on that contract last year, and all of a sudden, like, maybe it's okay. Evan Ingram has been.
It's okay enough in my opinion from last year.
Yeah,
when he did it, but that's just me. But
Evan Ingram's a heck of a tight end. Yeah, I mean they get a new coach in there and turn things around for Jacksonville. But I mean, kudos to them. Definitely, the travel was a big thing, but I don't know. The next game we're going to talk about Sunday at 1 p.m. Baltimore losing to Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh. We all had Baltimore -4 in this game, and an interesting stat, Kyle. I don't know if you were planning on bringing this up or not. The Baltimore Ravens lead the league in lost yardage with drop passes, like by double the next team. The receivers that they've brought in, Odell Beckham's not working. Bateman's already hurt. Zay Flowers he's a rookie. You know what I'm saying? So you're losing a lot of yards there going into Pittsburgh, a divisional rival. And I mean, it is what it is. It was kind of ugly. I know I had George Pickens sitting on a bench in one of my fantasy leagues, and he went off in that second half. I don't think he did much in the first, but Kyle, did you watch any of this game? What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, this was a snooze fest. This was your AFC North battle in December. This wasn't a October game for the NFC North or the AFC North, excuse me. I thought Baltimore had this in the bag, and I think until third or fourth quarter when Pittsburgh, I think, blocked a punt for a safety or a touchdown, I believe, and then hit Pickens in stride for that touchdown as well. And I was watching the game because at this point, I put a six game parlay together every week of my picks from the 12 the 6-pack challenge, hoping that maybe one of these weeks it hits. It hasn't. Obviously, you can see the standings that I posted today. It's probably not going to hit at all this year. This is hard. This is very hard because the NFL has been so weird this year. I still think that I would go back and pick Baltimore again over Pittsburgh if they were to play again this week. I don't think that Pittsburgh's it, but somehow they continuously are 500 or above, and it blows my mind. I don't understand.
And now they have divisional wins against Cleveland and Baltimore, so that could come into play later in the season. With we'll get into Cincinnati later, but that could, those two wins that could come into play. Corey, what'd you feel in this game?
Baltimore should have still won that game by 30. That was ridiculous. I watched it and I was like, I kept looking down at the score thinking it was going to be different, and it just wasn't. And it blew my mind. And then all of a sudden, the one good catch that goes more than 10 yards is the game winner. And I was like, I still don't, after it went off, I was like, I don't know what I just watched. I mean, I know it was AFC North because it was gross. But other than that, I don't know really what else it was. I think Baltimore's still the better team. Pittsburgh's defense is great. But when your offense can't, in theory, throw the ball more than 10 yards, I don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue that people, especially Steelers fans, are having with their coaching staff is what's their OC's name? Matt Canada. He's not innovative, and he's just not, like, when you're looking for that offensive mind. And that goes back to the Steelers being loyal almost to a fault because they continue to give him chance after chance. They actually gave him a bigger role in their offense after. It's ugly, you know.
He has to have something against the Rooneys or against Tomlin or something. That's the only thing I can think of because they shit all over him. The entire crowd did the entire game, and then they showed a clip of him up top when Pickens caught that ball, and they're like, I think somebody said something like, "Oh, what a great play call!" Like, no. I don't even think that was the first option, even though it should have been. And he just chucked the ball up, and Pickens made a great catch.
And I think I read something about that today. I think Pickett came out, I believe, and I might be wrong, but I think Pickett made changes at the line of scrimmage for that play too.
Good.
I would have to go back and actually look, but I think that part of that play call was Kenny Pickett.
Real quick too on Pickett, like people were shitting on him and stuff about like not passing it more than 4 yards and stuff. I don't think that they have given him yet, evidently, the ability to option out or anything like that. I think it's coming straight down from Canada, and it's like do this, and here's your second option. But there's not even like a change at the line or anything. And like you could see it in Pickett's face, like he was mad at something, and it wasn't him.
Yeah, you see that a lot with young quarterbacks. I know when we had Trubisky in Chicago, he had Matt Nagy as his head coach, and Matt Nagy was like, "This is the play that if this doesn't work, he like had one option. If that's not open, you better run." And then the second year, they said no more running. And I'm not saying Trubisky would have been a good quarterback, but when you hamstring your quarterback at such a young age, while they're trying to develop into an NFL quarterback, like that stuff sticks with these guys, So hopefully they'll make a change there and try to bring someone in for Pickett.
I think one of the issues too is Tomlin is he just no matter what, even though that somehow that team is just always has great wide receivers, he wants to run the ball no matter what.
Yeah.
And there's just sometimes, man, when you have the talent
that's a
wide
defensive
receivers,
mindset,
that's true. But like, man,
defense.
Before Deontay Johnson got hurt, you had them too. And then Najee can catch the ball out of the backfield a little bit. Freiermuth is awesome. There was 3 games, I think Freiermuth had like 4 targets because they were trying to run the ball so much. And we seen a little bit last year when they were down by like 20. They would still be running the ball in like the late of the fourth quarter. Like at this point, buddy, we got to run something different because it's just not working. Like,
yeah, that's wild. But we'll get into our next game Sunday at 1:00. I watched this entire game. Houston loses at Atlanta 21-19. Vegas set the line at +2, and it hit right on the line. I literally bet this game, and I was like, my wife was like, what does that mean? And I was like, I don't know. Basically, they just gave me my bet money back. Yeah. So that's what happens in a push. And this is our one on the end of our standings for the 6-pack challenge here. This game was exciting on both ends. CJ Stroud had a chance to drive down the field, puts his team up late. I think there was a minute 45 left or something. And Desmond Ridder just led his team all the way back. Atlanta was fired up. I don't know if they tuned into the 12-ounce Curl Route podcast, but it sure seemed like they did because we spent a lot of time last week talking about how Desmond Ridder should have been done. They need to move on and put the green lizard in. But they just let him ride it out, and the guy just got it done, man. Drake London fired up on the sideline. I don't know if you guys saw the video from above that they put out in Atlanta, but that touchdown catch that Bijan Robinson reached behind him and grabbed and took it into the end zone was insane. The athleticism and the hand-eye coordination. There's no way I'm catching that ball. That. Yeah.
Go ahead, I think what's crazy with Bijan though is that's not the first highlight reel catch he's had already this year. They showed a play last week when he was playing in London against Jacksonville where he reached out, caught it with one hand, and brought it in without touching it with his other hand too. And I mean, he just caught it and brought it in and started and was running. I think I'm going to have to set a rule for myself here soon with Houston too, that I can't bet on them because I want to see them win. I don't know what it is about the Houston Texans, but I love the vibe around them. I love the feel of it. This team's not going to amount to much this season. I think they're 2-3 right now. But they're playing good football, and CJ Stroud is playing lights out as well. And I read something today that said that, there's people that believe that Dave Tepper had a hand in the Panthers drafting Young over Stroud because Tepper had I think he bought the team within the last few years or whatever. That he said, no, we're taking Young. And some of the people wanted Stroud, and still early in both their careers, but Stroud's playing a lot better than Bryce Young is.
Yeah,
I've been on Team Stroud. I love this little group that they have at Texans. This was another emotional bet that I made this week, especially after hearing an interview with D'Amico Ryans. I just keep falling more and more in love with him. Yeah. I lost it unfortunately, but Houston is still fun. I'm with you, Kyle. I'm kind of rooting for this team just because they're young and they're fun and they can go places. D'Amico's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't think Atlanta's that good. Ritter just bought himself a few more weeks too, which might be scary to a lot of Atlanta fans because there's a lot of Atlanta fans that don't want him. So
yeah,
that could be a dangerous game depending on your owner and stuff. Like, oh, we really did. He did show us something that reason why we drafted him this way. So
right.
I don't know. I don't think Ritter can be a starting quarterback, but who knows?
Before we move on to the next game too. Look at Desmond Ritter next time you have the chance. The guy looks like he's 38 years old playing in the NFL. He just looks like an old, I don't know what it is about him. He just looks old. And he's like 23, 24 years old. But he's just, every time I see him take his helmet off, I'm just like, that's not who I envisioned Desmond Ritter being. Like he looks like he's played in the NFL for a really long time.
Got the Greg Oden effect there.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard not to pull for Houston. And remember when they traded their first-round pick, people immediately, on draft day, was like, well, Arizona's locked up the first 2 picks next year, and here Houston is winning some ball games, and they need to put their draft pick down a little so they can say, we grabbed Will Anderson because we knew we weren't going to be in that position again. So definitely it's a fun team to watch. I had a lot of fun watching that game Sunday for sure. We'll move on to the next game I watched Sunday at 4:05. Philadelphia at LA. Philly wins this game 23-14. Myself and Kyle had LA Rams +4, and Corey had Philly -4. This game, it looks like not as close on the scoreboard, but this game was really close. Way down, I think the third quarter, halfway through the third quarter, maybe even the fourth quarter, Philly kind of starts to pull away, but this game was tough. It was nick and tuck, back and forth, and it was a lot of fun to watch. Cooper Kupp comes back and goes off. Puka Nacua still doing his thing out there in LA, and the Rams defense didn't look too bad either. They locked up A.J. Brown for a lot of that game, which I was really surprised by because I can't tell you who's in their secondary. But, it's fun. Yeah, it was fun to watch. Myself and Kyle picked it wrong, but it definitely could have went either way, in my opinion. I still don't think Philly has shown the dominance that we expected them to show in the NFC. And I'm still hearing the Jalen Carter chants. I guess he leads all rookies in sacks and pressures, and he's doing all kinds of good things on that defensive line. Good for him. I'm still happy with Darnell Wright as our right tackle in Chicago. But Corey, tell me about this game. What leaned your way to Philly, and I'm sure you're happy with it.
Well, real quick, Jalen Carter is great, all right, but you're also going to look great with the rest of them on that line.
Yeah,
let him go to anywhere else, like that
Chicago,
anywhere. Let him go to Carolina and see what he does. All right, but your pick's fine. Their pick was fine too. The Rams are starting to look like what I didn't think they were this year. I thought they were just going to blow it this year.
Mm-hmm.
And say screw it, especially when they shipped Ramsey off to Kupp. I didn't think Kupp would play at this point this year. I thought they were just going to shut him down, period, especially if Stafford was going to be shut down kind of too, where he was a little hurt, which death taxes Stafford hurt. He's still great when whatever he's hurt. But they're showing me something. Even though they lost by 9, the Rams, they're not going to win the division, but I could see them getting a wild card now at this point.
Got a tough schedule though, man. They really do.
That's true, but we just seen how they played Philly. They played Philly great, and Philly's the second best team in the NFC, I guess, technically.
Yeah. Not only did they play Philly really well, but they played against San Francisco well too. When they played them, and I mean Cooper Kupp, drive number 1, 5 catches for 50 yards, and having Puka out there with Stafford as well, it gives you. And I know this isn't a fantasy show, but this gives you 2 fantasy wide receivers in one offense, which doesn't happen in most offenses.
Right.
You've got Puka out here who's still putting up big numbers, with Cooper Kupp being back too, and Tutu's even finding the love and getting it in the end zone. Like you said, Aaron, this game was a lot closer than it looks on paper or on our ticker at the bottom here. And Philly hasn't been as dominant as they were last year, but the dominance that they have on that brotherly shove, there is absolutely no way to stop that play.
I forgot to bring that up for the Bears,
and
game. They finally did it this week.
It's wild to watch Philly do that, because I've seen other teams. I saw Chicago do it Thursday night, but there's other teams that try it. I mean, the Panthers try it and they trot out Andy Dalton. They bring out Bryce Young. They bring out Andy Dalton. And a lot of these teams just can't get it done. New York lost 2 offensive linemen when they tried it. But there's something about Jalen Hurts benching or squatting, I think, 600 pounds or something crazy like that. He doesn't look like a massive dude, but he can move some bodies.
Real quick, too. All right, so without Cup, they beat Seattle at Seattle. They only lost by the 49ers by a tutty.
And lost to Cincinnati by 3.
Yeah, so their schedule does look a little bit tough, but at the end of the year, they have home against the Commanders, home against the Saints, at the New York Giants, and the final game is at Levi Stadium at 49ers. But at that point, the 49ers might be shutting down.
Yeah, they might have a one seed.
Yeah. So there could potentially be 4 wins right there that they could rattle off too. So if they could stay even and kind of be healthy enough, the K'Veon Williams kid, he's doing great right there. So they could sneak into the wild card, I think.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that'll definitely be a team to watch. Speaking of teams to watch, our next game, Sunday Night Football, Dallas Cowboys traveled to San Francisco, and San Francisco put it on them, 42-10. Myself and Kyle had San Francisco -3.5. Corey, that hook got you. You thought it might have been a close game. I mean, I thought it was going to be a close game.
I must have been drinking Makers because I picked Dallas for some reason.
Dallas Jesus plus Christ. 3.5.
That was tough, boys. That was a tough game.
Man, San Francisco, they just there's in a couple of weeks, I think in early December, either Philadelphia travels to San Francisco or vice versa. That game is going to be to determine the 1 seed in the NFC. The San Francisco 49ers just came through and said the road to the Super Bowl comes through Santa Clara, and you guys are going to have to come here and play us. They're just dominating on all levels. And one of the big things, especially draft time, remember, they're doing this with a 7th Mr. Irrelevant at quarterback, playing really well. But a lot of their star players are the quote-unquote forgotten positions. You got Christian McCaffrey in the backfield going off. You got George Kittle at tight end going off. You got Fred Warner looking like an absolute star at middle linebacker, punching the ball out, making all the plays. I saw one play where Dak rolls out to the left. Fred Warner kind of spies him over there, breaks up a too shallow crossing route. So he messes up the plays, and then he puts his hands up as he's running toward Dak so he can't throw it over him, and then he gets the sack. The guy made 3 plays in 1 play. I played linebacker, so I love that kind of play. And Fred Warner is just an absolute monster in the middle of this defense. But San Francisco's, I mean, I'm feeling better and better about my prediction of them representing the NFC in the Super Bowl because they just look absolutely dominant. Corey, can you tell me something about this game?
Fred Warner's just that's insane. I know that the MVP is an offensive award, and we talked about Parsons. Maybe I think Parsons is still top up there. We've seen what T.J. Watt did against Baltimore. Fred Warner, even though he's a middle linebacker and he's not going to have those type of numbers, he is insane. Yeah. And then they have Greenlaw beside him. Yeah. But Fred Warner is just on a different level than every other middle linebacker. As far as Dallas goes, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened with the play calling halfway through that game. CeeDee Lamb, I only think he had like 9 targets or something like that. That can't be a thing. And then the just piss missiles he kept trying to throw. Dak kept trying to throw to Cooks that were just not good throws.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. They were all over Dallas was all over the place. I understand it playing that defense.
Dak's really good when they have the lead, but when he's trying to play from behind, I'm sorry, Kyle, if I'm taking one of your points, but if he's trying to play from behind, that's when those mistakes start to add up for Dak, and he can't make the plays. I don't know. Go ahead, Kyle. Or Corey, if you had anything else.
No, go ahead, Kyle.
This game, normally any game San Francisco has, and I think they're 14-1, 15-1 since adding Christian McCaffrey. And normally every game is a Christian McCaffrey game, but this was a George Kittle game. And he's looking, I believe, I don't know if you guys saw his undershirt after one of his touchdowns. It said F the Cowboys, basically. And they're talking about giving him a fine. To bring up or to kind of build on what you said, Aaron, San Francisco travels to Philadelphia on December 3rd. Now, here's Philadelphia's schedule leading up to that. October 22nd is Sunday night game versus the Miami Dolphins. November 5th versus Dallas. November 26th, so there's a bye week in there, against Buffalo, and then they get the 49ers. Wow. That's going to be a tough
gauntlet.
If you look at the Eagles' schedule after or in that area, it gets tough for the Philadelphia Eagles. What they're playing right now, the teams they're playing right now, these are get-right games, basically. We need to make sure that we can get this right before we get into the heavy part of our schedule. Now, the 49ers still, they've got to play Seattle, I think, twice still, who's only lost one game to the Rams. They've still got to play the Rams again. I don't know the rest of their schedule, but I don't know. I want to see a battle of two unbeaten teams when those two teams play each other, but I don't know if it's going to happen.
Next game is at Cleveland, at Minnesota, home against Cincy, at Jacksonville, home Tampa, at Seattle, at Philadelphia, home Seattle, and then they finish it with the Los Angeles Rams.
Wow. Yeah, it's tough, man. But San Francisco, they came out with, because they even said after last year getting put out in the NFC Championship, they were like, we could have beat that team if we had a quarterback whose arm wasn't hanging off of his shoulder, or elbow or whatever. Like they went into this season to prove a point that they should have been in last year's Super Bowl, and they probably feel like they could have won it with that defense. And they're showing it week in and week out. So that's definitely but we'll move on to this week. We did not put the Thursday game on the 6-pack challenge. It is the Kansas City Chiefs, or I guess we can, if there's some other things you guys want to talk about from last week. Corey, I saw your Patriots, and it's pretty ugly.
That was just embarrassing. The Saints are not that good. That's about all I got to say. That we need a new quarterback. Mac's just not it. And we can't spend the most money on wide receivers and tight ends, and then they all suck.
Right.
And they're all like, none of them are number ones or number twos even. I don't.
Right.
You know who is a number one or a number two? Jacoby Meyer, who's playing for the Raiders, who you guys could have kept, but you let him walk in free agency, and instead you paid Juju, and then you re-signed Devontae Parker to a long-term deal, who I don't think you guys are using either. The two wide receivers that you signed.
Yeah, I like Devontae. I mean, Jacoby Myers is a rough two at best, but I did like him though.
Yeah.
The only other thing I had to say is Detroit looks great right now.
Yes, they do. Yeah,
I know it's Carolina, but they look great.
They shellacked them, and I was actually because shout out to the Sunday Ticket. They've got this quad screen now, and where my team wasn't playing, I was able to just focus around the NFL. And that was one of the games I had on there. They had Craig Reynolds in at the end of that game. And there was a play where he was about to come out, and David Montgomery, and I believe either the running backs coach or the OC was like, no, you stay out there, you stay out there. And then Craig Reynolds ran it in for a touchdown. If you follow or watch any of the Hard Knocks on HBO Max that was on last year, Craig Reynolds was a big story on that show. So that's kind of a feel-good story. And man, Dan Campbell's just going to fire you up, dude. That's that guy. And that's another thing where, and I don't want to get completely into it, but they showed Eberflus after the win talking to his players in the locker room. And he couldn't motivate me to make a sandwich. There's nothing he does that.
At least you don't have Belichick.
We're going back to the drawing board.
We're on to Cincinnati. We're on to Cincinnati.
Great job, guys.
We're on to Cincinnati.
Last one on the plane.
You know what sucks for Belichick though is he's so close to. I looked up the all-time wins, and Hallis is second, and first is I believe Bill Walsh, and Belichick is third, and he is so close to reaching that milestone that I wonder.
31 away, I think, or something like that.
Well, I wonder if Robert Kraft wanted to keep him around to reach that milestone. I mean, this guy has won 6 Super Bowls for your franchise. It's really hard to fire. Are you going to fire that coach? You know what I mean? That's
the thing about Bill Belichick. Look, Bill Belichick is the GM. It's been rough, but if you fire Bill Belichick, 30 teams are going to hire him. I'm not going to count the 49ers and maybe the Lions at this point. But other than that, everybody's going to hire somebody else, or they're going to hire. They just are.
I don't think if Bill Belichick either he walks away from New England or he gets fired, I don't think he will head coach another organization. I think he'll come in as like a special counsel or a senior personnel or something of that nature. And it will be something like that. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the man hang it up after this year. I mean, I think he's in his 70s. He has accomplished everything that he's needed to accomplish. Yeah. 31 wins away with this New England Patriots team that you have. It's going to take you 10 years to get there. And he don't have that kind of time.
I think he wants to at least compete for one more Super Bowl just to say he did it without Tom Brady.
Then he needs to go to another team.
Yeah. And that's another thing. I saw someone, Corey, I'm sure you may be mutual friends with him, but he was like, can we get off Bill Belichick? Obviously, he wasn't that great. It was all Tom Brady. It's a perfect marriage, dude. It's not just one or the other. As great as Tom Brady was, absolutely. But how many of those early Super Bowls, he was carried there by his defense, his running game, and a great head coach. It's not one or the others. The Crusher throwing
because our team is trash. That's why.
We got a 9-year-old in here throwing shade to Corey. How do the Saints beat the Pats 34-0? One thing I'll tell you, the Crusher, the way that you're playing in fantasy football, Corey's getting his revenge on you. So he's coming for you in fantasy, Crusher. It's probably about time for you to go to bed, buddy.
Well, yeah, I definitely wanted to talk a little Pats before we moved on, but other than that, there's not a ton from last week that I can think of off the top of my head. We can just get into this week if you guys are ready.
But before we go, because one thing I do want to touch on is the amount of injuries this year. Justin Jefferson going on IR, Devin Achane going on IR, and who's been really big for Miami. We're seeing a lot of guys going on IR right now, and we're seeing a lot of guys coming off of injured reserve. And obviously it's changed because you only have to spend 4 weeks on there now. But it just feels like the injuries are higher than normal. James Conner's out for at least 4 weeks now too. We've seen Anthony Richardson, who's being added to IR, going out.
I'm surprised Khalil Herbert hasn't went to IR. The way he caught that ball and landed on his ankle.
He might still go.
It's just, it's crazy.
Yeah, the injuries are piling up for sure. But we'll get into a little bit of that as we get into this week's games. Like I said, we're not doing Thursday because I think the Chiefs are going to dominate the Broncos. It's going to be I say that every week, but the Chiefs have a difficult time covering for some freaking reason. I don't know what
the Broncos.
But even Powell told me when we were playing against the Broncos, he goes, "This defense is so bad, everyone has career days against them." So for Patrick Mahomes to have a career day, that's 7 touchdowns or something. Like he might have a Peyton Manning.
The only thing that I want to touch on is I do believe that they should dress Kelsey, but not play him. Because if that ankle actually is like kind of hurting, like this is not the worst game to have him just kind of like not do anything.
Yeah,
unless they're like losing
10 days off or at least.
Exactly. Like, and I'm saying that as somebody that has Kelsey in fantasy, like I don't think it's the worst idea to sit him. This week, because it's a long season.
Yeah, Crusher's crushing you now, Kyle. But I'll leave that there and let you deal with that at home. So our first game is back in bloody London. The NFL goes back overseas. The Baltimore Ravens and the Tennessee Titans kicking off at 9:30 a.m.
Could you please spell Titans for me?
I don't know how to say it with an accent.
Toitans. Titans.
It's tough.
The Titans are 4.5-point underdogs. The over/under is 40.5. The money line for Baltimore is -205. For Tennessee, it's +170. I can't figure Tennessee out. 1 week they look awful. 1 week they dominate the Bengals. The next week they look off. I don't know what they are, but I do feel like I know what Baltimore is. And as you said, Corey, they've already went over to London. They did not haste or waste time to get over there, to get on schedule, to get acclimated to their time zone. Give me Baltimore -4.5. I think they get back on track this week against a porous Tennessee defense. I think Lamar Jackson might, if his receivers keep dropping the ball, he might just say, "Screw it, I'm going to run a couple." He's good for that. So I think Baltimore gets back on track this week over there in London. Corey, who do you got in this game?
The Baltimore game was just weird to me. I think Baltimore's way better than that. Tennessee has an okay run defense, but I don't think it matters. I think Baltimore wins this game by 10. So I'm definitely taking the Ravens.
I got burnt on the Ravens last week, and it made me really sad because I think they were the ones that ruined me going 6-0 last week. And then, obviously it all fell apart from there. But Tennessee's so up and down this season. It's 1 week they're awful, and then they look okay, and then they're back to being awful, and then they blow out the Bengals, and then they're terrible again. It's just so weird for them. But looking at Baltimore playing against the Steelers, and then looking at their skill players and watching them all get hurt, and seeing that they have their 6th-string wide receiver and their 8th-string running back out there, but they still have Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. This is a Kittle type of game. Mark Andrews, 3 touchdowns. Baltimore minus 4.5.
Damn. Calling his shot. We'll move on. Sunday at 1 o'clock. The New Orleans Saints traveling to Houston. Houston is a 1.5-point home underdog. The over-under is 42.5. Money line for New Orleans is minus 120. For Houston, it is plus 105. Oh, my goodness. I don't know what to pick in this game. I had New Orleans winning their division. I just saw New Orleans shellac the Patriots. But I really like what Houston has put together. They're at home. They're underdogs. CJ Stroud looks pretty good. Give me Houston. Give me Houston at home plus 1.5. If I'm getting the underdog status at home, I think DeMeco Ryans will have these guys fired up, especially if he sees this line. He's going to definitely have some talking points for them. Corey, I believe your headphones are messing up, so I'll pass to Kyle on this one. And hopefully Corey can come back with us.
I said earlier I'm done picking with my heart for games, and I don't want to be on the side of the Packers anymore. And I already said earlier in the show, Houston has there's a soft spot in my heart for Houston right now, but I think that they're the better team. I watched New Orleans after Derek Carr went out with that injury against the Packers, blow a 17-point lead against Green Bay. And Derek Carr's not 100%. Granted, do they have better pass catchers and better skill players than Houston? Yes, they do, 100%. But Houston they have heart. They have this, underdog mentality, and to be an underdog at home in a game that they should have beat Atlanta, I think that they're going to beat New Orleans as well. So give me Houston plus 1.5.
We do have to think really quick. New Orleans and Houston aren't very far from each other. I know when Hurricane Katrina hit, a lot of New Orleans went to Houston. So we could see a lot of Saints fans in the crowd at this game as well. So maybe it's not – I mean, I don't want to change your pick or anything, Corey, but maybe it's not so much home field advantage for Houston in this game. I don't know.
I mean, I would have picked this game. I would have picked Houston if they were in New Orleans. Yeah. I'm going to hammer the over or the money line on this. I'm not giving up on the Texans yet. In order for our records to change, we have to pick different teams, guys. But I believe in Houston. I still do. Like Kyle said, they're fun. So I'm going with Houston all the way on this.
Yeah. We have to pick different teams, but I don't know which ones we're going to pick. Kyle, I believe there's one on here that we had pulled out. Is that correct? Our next one?
Yeah, we're not doing the San Francisco game anymore. Deshaun Watson's I don't think Deshaun Watson's going to play. I locked in with San Francisco minus 5.5 the other day.
Me too.
They're already minus 7 now. So, we replaced the San Francisco game with the
New Orleans Houston.
with that one, the New Orleans Houston game. Yeah. So,
all right. Our next game is another divisional rival. The Indianapolis Colts travel to Jacksonville. Jacksonville is -4 at home. The over-under is 45.5. Money line for Indy is +164. For Jacksonville is -198. Big news this week out of Indy was Anthony Richardson, who I may or may not have been wrong about, did go on IR. As big as the numbers when he is on the field have been, the guy just can't stay healthy so far in his career. He's had concussion issues, and this one is a shoulder strain. I saw this in Chicago with Justin Fields when he was running. I mean, you start those injuries start piling up with the hits you take at this level. You know, you can't do the same things you did in college. It's not going to work. For all those reasons, and Jacksonville being at home, give me Jacksonville -4. I think they keep the ball rolling. They come back from London and they continue to start to stack wins to try and take this division that's really close right now. So give me Jacksonville -4. Corey, what do you
got? Hammering the money line. I'm going to actually take the under on this game. But Jacksonville, I might bet up on that. Jacksonville, they're just better. And they're home. Fine. Well, they're, second home from, London. They're in Duval County now. But Indy without, we got tape on Gardner. All right. They do too. So I think Jacksonville wins this by like 7 or 8 easily.
Well,
I think
go ahead, Kyle.
Go ahead, Aaron. No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say Gardner Minshew was the only quarterback to have stepped out the back of the end zone and won the game. The other two guys that did it were Orlovsky, of course, famously for those 2008 Detroit Lions that finished 0-16, and I believe it was Jimmy Garoppolo that did it for the 49ers. They both lost those games, and Gardner Minshew is the only one that had won. Go ahead, Kyle.
If I look at the difference between Anthony Richardson and Gardner Minshew, and I had to choose a quarterback to lead my team, I'm choosing Gardner Minshew strictly based on the way that this man carries himself. The guy tried to break his own hand to get another year of eligibility. He's not smart for that. I can tell you that. But I mean, try to break your own hand. Indianapolis is kind of like Tennessee. They've been so up and down in games, and it's been hard to watch. I think that we'll see a bigger mix of Jonathan Taylor in this and less of Zach Moss, even though he did just have a big game. But Jacksonville is just a better team. And Jacksonville, I don't feel like Jacksonville, even though they just beat Buffalo by 5, I still don't feel like they're playing up to the level that they can be playing up to. I'm taking Jacksonville -4. We're now 3 games all on the same. Let's see how these next 3 go.
I don't know. It might continue. The next game Sunday at 1:00. Minnesota at Chicago. Chicago is a +2.5 point home dog. The over/under in this game is 44.5. The money line Minnesota is -135. Chicago is +114. That's when I saw this. I can't tell you what this line is now. This line opened at +3.5. Bears were home dogs. Then the Justin Jefferson news broke. I jumped on this line while it was at 3. So it's already moved again. I think the Bears come home, and the bottom 3 passing defenses are Denver Broncos, I believe Chicago Bears, and then just above them is Minnesota. I think Justin Fields has another good game this weekend and continues to try and stave off Caleb Williams in Chicago. Give me the Bears. Give me the Bears money line. I've already bet this game, and I bet the over because I think there's going to be a lot of points with these 2 defenses. I know, Kyle, shake your head, betting with my head, betting with my heart. It is what it is. I just can't help myself. Give me Bears +2.5.
I think even at 1-4 and even losing Justin Jefferson, the Vikings just aren't this bad. I just don't believe it. +2.5 is kind of but Chicago's going to have to show me more. They're just going to have to. I'm going to take the Vikings -2.5.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Well, we're split right now. I think the 3 times this makes the 4th time we've had the Bears on the on the 6-pack challenge. I've not picked them once. And the time that I did not pick them, I chose Green Bay. The 3 times that I did take the Bears, I'm currently sitting at 1-2. So it hasn't been great when I've chosen the Bears. However, the Vikings have lost Justin Jefferson. There's rumors swirling that he may not be activated again this season based on where Minnesota's sitting when he's due to come back. There's talk about Kirk Cousins waiving his no-trade clause and potentially being the new quarterback for the Steelers or the new quarterback for the Patriots or the Jets or enter said team name who has a decent record but not a decent quarterback. Maybe he goes back to the Commanders, right? Who knows? More than likely, he probably finishes the season after signing another extension with the Vikings, with the Minnesota Vikings. Chicago's rolling after that one game. 20 points over Washington, who took
rolling. Okay.
Chicago's rolling.
We should have beat Denver, so that should be 2 in a row.
If you should have beat Denver, listen to that. You should have beat Denver.
This is what pisses me off so bad. The Bears should have beat Tampa, should have beat Denver, did beat Washington. Our only 2 losses should be a blowout week 1 against the Packers, who death taxes and losing to the Packers. That's just what the Bears do. And then a blowout to the Chiefs, who may be the best team in the NFL.
That's calm down.
The Bears are not as bad as I thought they were. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just rolling off the high.
7 days ago, you were ready to
I'm telling you, this Minnesota team is absolute garbage. They turn the ball over more than anybody. They have 4 one-score losses. Their only win is an 8-point win. This team is not good. They can't run the ball. They can't throw the ball now that Jefferson's out. Their defense is one of the worst in the entire league. But you go ahead. Go ahead and ride with your Vikings.
I think
out next week.
Aaron, you need to check your temperature after this because I think that you have a fever. However,
I'm more cowbell.
I'm still on Chicago plus 2.5, and I'm with Aaron. I think that they have a very, very good chance of winning this game against a Minnesota team that just couldn't. I'm surprised that they're 1-4 right now. It's crazy, but we talked about them in the offseason. They didn't do anything to get better. They are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook. Give me Chicago plus 2.5.
We'll move on to the later portion of the schedule. Sunday at 4:25, the Detroit Lions traveling to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's a 3-point home dog. The over-under is 43.5. The money line Detroit is minus 162. Tampa Bay is plus 136. I think Detroit goes down there and just wipes the floor with Tampa. I don't think this is even a close game. I put this on here because, honestly, when I looked at this week's slate of games, there was a lot of tough choices, and I didn't want them all to be 1 o'clock games. So I had to throw something on there, and that's why I chose this game. I think Detroit -3, give me that. I'd pound it. I would tease that up to probably -9, I think. I don't know. Go ahead, Corey. Tell me about this one.
I'm definitely going to tease it up to 6.5. The Lions go down to the pirate ship and bite the kneecaps off of it. I don't know how this is +3. Mike Evans.
That one.
I'm pretty sure Mike Evans ain't even playing either. So I think the Lions are going to crush.
So one thing we have to remember about this game is that Tampa Bay is coming off of a bye, or as Corey calls it, a bye, right? So they're coming off of a bye week, which means they've had extra time to look at Detroit, where Detroit was focused. I don't know how focused they were against Carolina or how much they were looking past them, but Tampa's still coming off of a bye. Tampa's still 3-1. They've only lost 1 game.
True.
Amon-Ra is more than likely playing in this game. I haven't seen anything about Mike Evans. I don't know, Corey. I haven't looked at that. I don't know if he's playing or not. But again, we're talking about the Lions, and we're not talking about the Lions of the 90s and the 80s and the 70s. We're talking about the Lions of the now, right? I'm with you guys. Detroit -3. I wouldn't be so sure to take them at much more than that, just because of Tampa Bay coming off their bye. But give me Detroit -3.
Real quick, too, I know Jahmyr Gibbs is kind of limpy, too. I don't know if he's going to play full, if he even does play. But Jameson Williams, you got to remember, they're easing him back in. Jameson Williams is going to be – I've still got a lot of faith in this guy. Like,
do you think that Jameson Williams takes Detroit -3 in this game, or do you think that he takes Tampa?
I think after somehow that –
nice! That was fucking good.
After those suspensions and stuff were redone or restructured or whatever, he was probably like, I'm going to delete the old app.
Well, the NFL went through and changed their whole policy after this.
Yeah, what happened there? Yeah. I know. He was out for –
I feel like there's going to be some sort of infringement on their – you can't give that information out to an employer and say, yeah, this guy's putting money on these games while he's at your stadium. I don't know. I just feel like that's not legal. Obviously, it might. I guess it is, but it just doesn't sit right with me.
I think what it comes down to is draft. I'm assuming they all do this because that's why we couldn't vet in Kentucky forever. It checks your location. So it sees, this location is at the Detroit Lions training facility.
Ford Field, okay.
Ford Field?
Yeah. Is this Ford Field, Texas? No, it's Michigan. Okay, all right. Yeah.
So does Jameson Williams, because Cincinnati, the Bengals have a sports book, I believe, at the stadium now. I'm not sure if betting's obviously legalized in Michigan too. Does Jameson Williams at halftime go up to the sports book and place a few bets and then go back to the game, or how does that work?
What he needs to do is do what I do and leave the man out of it and go get the bet slips. That's what he needs to do. Because you can't trace that.
Loves his slips. My God.
I'm out here with my glasses halfway down and sitting there doing this.
Oh, you crack me up.
I like it in my hand, baby. I like it in my hand.
Yeah, I bet you do. Our final game of the week, Monday Night Football. The Dallas Cowboys travel to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers. Chargers are +2 home dogs. The over-under is 50.5. Money line is Dallas -150. Chargers +110. I think there's going to be a large contingency of Cowboys fans in SoFi Stadium on Monday night because, Dallas does their training camp out there. They've got a huge fan base all over the world, but definitely in LA. So Chargers don't really get home field advantage, and the spread shows it. I think Dallas is going to be pissed off coming off that embarrassing game on Sunday Night Football last week. And I think Dallas goes into LA and kind of puts it on the Chargers a little bit. I know the Chargers have kind of been, they hang around. They got a ton of this talent, and on paper they should be like a top 3 AFC team, but on the field they are not. It comes down to coaching, and if your coach doesn't know what he's done, and not that I know that McCarthy knows what he's doing, but I think he knows a little bit more than Brandon Staley. So for all those reasons, give me Dallas -2 in this game. I think the defense shows up and plays really well against the Chargers, and Dak doesn't have to play from behind very much. Corey, tell me what's up.
I still think Dallas is a good team, a really good team, actually. I think the over is going to hit. I think Dallas wins this game, but Brandon Staley goes for 2 like a dumbass, and they lose. So I'm actually going to take the Cowboys +2.
It's Chargers +2.
Oh, shit.
You can't tease on the 6-pack challenge, Corey.
I'm still taking Dallas -2. I'm taking Dallas -2.
Oh, okay.
Sticking with Dallas -2. I circle my picks before we do this, by the way. So I'll show you my paper if you want to see it. Corey said, by the way, we got to pick different games to get different records. Well, guess what, Corey? I'm picking different here than you guys. I'm taking LA Chargers +2 because we want to talk about coaching. Well, guess who was the head coach for the Green Bay Packers for a really long time? Mike McCarthy. Dak Prescott isn't really the problem in Dallas, and we've seen that before. But here comes Mike McCarthy making boneheaded decisions, and it's the reason that they can't get things going. I think Mike McCarthy's out after this year if Dallas doesn't win a playoff game. That's my thought, honestly, with that. I don't think that Dak is as bad as everybody and even myself make him out to be. This Dallas team has a lot of talent, but they've also lost a little bit of talent to injuries as well. LA Chargers, they've lost talent too. And Corey, I'm gonna have you help me fill in a word here. The Chargers are coming off of their
bye.
They're coming off their bye, right? The Chargers are coming off their bye that had a chance to look at the Cowboys. Now, Texas isn't very far away from California. I don't know if Dallas stayed in California while they were there playing the Niners, but they got to go back and play the Chargers. Like you said, Aaron, LA, Las Vegas, wherever, Dallas fans travel, but even more so in these areas where there's new teams, you don't have that fan base established and stuff like that. I like Justin Herbert in this game. Austin Eckler should be back from injury. I'm with the Chargers +2. I'm going to take their money line on this one as well.
Wow. The Chargers winning straight up. Yeah, that was interesting that you brought up McCarthy there and all the mistakes that he's made over the years, yet he continues to get chances.
We can just bring up the last 2 playoffs where they've lost, and they have one Zeke at center one year and Dak running a quarterback draw another. I mean, come on.
That is still the worst thing I've ever seen.
And they got Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn turned down interviews to be head coaches last year. So I got a feeling old Jerry's been in his ear saying, hey, boss, you're my next head coach. It might be a reason why Kellen Moore said, I'm out too. I don't know. Well, they fired him technically, didn't they? So
yeah, because
that's another. Oh my God! Why didn't we say that? You got Kellen Moore playing against. Wow!
It doesn't matter when you got. It doesn't matter when you got Brandon Staley doing dumbass things all the time. Like
you got me second guessing my pick. You know what? I'm swapping it. Give me Chargers +2. I'm changing it. Chargers +2 because Kellen Moore is going to prove to the world that he was a better play caller than McCarthy. Comes down to that.
If Aaron wins this competition, there's an asterisk.
There's not a he
changed it.
Aaron and I, based off of what he just said, if he's changing, that puts us
all 6
for the second time this year. All 6. Which means, Aaron, we're going 0-6 again, brother. It's not gonna be good for us. So, welcome to the dark side,
I'm either
Aaron.
Picking up 2 games or losing 2 games.
Yeah, something's gonna happen there. I don't know. Geez, I didn't realize we picked the same. Last time we did that, we screwed it up big time. Yeah, I bet you do up there in first place on your high horse. How's the weather up there, Corey?
It's been pretty nice considered I've been sucking for the past 2 weeks.
That was me talking to you on your high horse there.
It's great that he can pick these games, but his team can't score points.
Hey. I don't want to talk about it. It's you know, talk about bye weeks. It's a bye year, all right. So just chill out.
Bye year.
Bye.
I do want to talk just two. I want to touch on 2 games.
Okay.
I think Seattle at Cincinnati will be kind of fun to watch because
it's going to be throwing that in. Yeah,
it's going to be driven down our throats on Kentucky TVs anyway. So, and then I want to see what the Jets defense does in not New York against Philadelphia at 425.
And they're in Jersey.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean Seattle and Cincinnati. I almost put that on here. I know you're not a Bengals fan, but I've told you that's my favorite AFC team. I grew up rooting for that team, and it seemed like they kind of started to get it together last week. Granted, they're playing the Cardinals, who a lot of us thought are terrible. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. We still don't know. We're not sure. But seeing Joe Burrow, he scrambled a couple times in that game. He was able to throw the ball deep, which he hadn't been able to do all year. I think the Bengals are starting to get it together, and look out for that AFC North if they start to put it together while these teams continue to fumble their way through the AFC North. I know, Kyle, that was your pick.
Bengals -3, by the way.
Fingers crossed. Well, I mean, even if we talk about that game, Seattle's coming off of their
bye.
They're coming off their bye, right? Seattle, I think so far, I picked
them 13 weeks of that, by the way.
13 weeks of that. As long as we continue to pick games on the 6-pack challenge where a team is coming off of their
bye,
then we're going to continue to hear it. He's like a sheep. Bah, bah. I love it. I love it.
It's like a sheep.
We need one of those things that blinks every time. Just bye.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a good game too. I mean, you've got that's a wide receiver heavy game. If T. Higgins plays, which I don't know if he will, he's got the rib injury.
Yeah.
But essentially, you're putting choose a trio. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd, or would you rather have DK Lockett and Jackson Smith and Jigba? Yeah. You know, obviously Jamar is the number one wide receiver out of all six of those guys, but is that core DK three with Seattle better than that core three with Cincinnati? You know,
yeah.
So,
well, I mean, give me Seattle secondary over Cincinnati's though. They got some good young players in their secondary. Tariq Woolen was a guy I liked a lot in the draft. He freaking fast as lightning and just plays the ball really well. And then they go and get Devin Witherspoon this year to add to it, and he's playing really well. I think it comes down to coaching too. I mean, Pete Carroll, I was out on him. Like when they were getting rid of Russell, like I was like, well, Pete Carroll's probably about done. And Pete Carroll's like, hold my beer. Let me show you what I can do with Geno. Like, yeah, it's a good coaching staff out there. I did want to talk for just a second. Last week we went on a big tirade. I think it was last week where we talked about the bye weeks and splitting them and doing it 8 and 9. That would just kill fantasy football is what I was thinking as I had some players start to hit bye weeks last week. I was like, boy, if half the league was on bye week 8 and half the league was on bye week 9, that would really affect fantasy. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but
I think at that point in fantasy, we would probably just make that buys for fantasy.
Well.
I mean, on a serious note, because if you have 16 teams out, I mean, come on, like you might as well put the buys in for those 2 weeks for fantasy.
I wouldn't be surprised with the way the NFL operates within the next 5 years that they just get rid of the bye weeks, because guess what? There's money to be made. And when a team's not playing, they're not making money. And the way some of these owners are wanting to make money and wanting these guys to play 20, 30, probably 40 games a year and make NFL a year-round thing to where we always have it. I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, hey, how about an 18-game schedule with no bye week instead?
I've heard the opposite. I've heard of them getting rid of another preseason game
and adding, second bye
week.
It'll happen because all they have to do is be like, oh, players, you want grass back? All right. Go to 18 games. I mean, that's these talks always like when the players think they're getting something, they're just not. But that's what sucks when you have all these rich owners, and the NFLPA tries to help out their players, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, you got to think when it comes to the owners voting on things, there's 32 of them. And when it comes to the players, you have a few representing all of the players.
And then you're like 3,400 people or something like that.
A bunch. Yeah. I mean, there's more than 3,400.
53 on every roster times 32. And that's just.
So 1,600, if not counting preseason and injured reserve and practice squad. And 3,400 is probably a good number, Corey. But that doesn't, it's easier to negotiate when it's 32 guys coming together and voting on things than one guy trying to make the right decision for all of these players.
Well, and we've heard multiple podcasts and people, just all the higher up people that know what they're talking about, the Mina Kimeses of the world and stuff like that. But the 3,400 people, you have your Tom Brady's, or you have your Aaron Rodgers, or all the quarterbacks making all that money. They're okay to fight for the right to get their certain things. But when you have all these practice squad people who are, what's the minimum for practice squad? Is it like 55K or something like that? Or
I don't think it's that low. I think
it's 75 to 80K.
Okay, but even still, when you have to rent a house somewhere, if you have to do all this stuff, you have to travel and stuff. I know it's not as bad as baseball, but like they're going to be like, well, whatever we got to do, if we want to play another game, sweet, let's do it. So when you have the 3% that it can stand down versus the 97%. Right. That's what happens. I mean, that's just it. That's what happens.
It says a practice squad player makes $12,000 per week, which is $216 per year for 18 weeks. So I wouldn't mind being a practice squad player for at least a year. Yeah. Don't activate me. I don't want to die in a game or anything, but put me on the practice squad and I'll run around like I'm Jared Lorenzen, RIP, hefty lefty.
Especially if you're in like a Green Bay market or a Cincinnati market or even Nashville, you could live very handsomely with $215K a year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it is what it is. We'll come back in next week and see if myself and Kyle can turn this thing around and go 6-0, or if we go 0-6.
Well, you just jinxed yourself right there. God dang.
I was confident until you changed that last pick, Aaron. Thanks a lot.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't.
If it makes you feel any better,
I don't write anything down. This is off the top of the head. I'm like Slim Shady.
If y'all do go
freestyle rap it every week. Not so Slim Shady, I should go by. Yeah, we'll come back next week and talk about all this again. And we're getting kind of close to mid-season. I think we should start talking about contenders and pretenders maybe in a couple of weeks. But if everyone could subscribe to the DFR Daily Football Roundup YouTube page. We go live every Wednesday at 9 p.m. So comment, subscribe, give us 5 stars on Spotify or whatever. I believe we're on iTunes. You can give us a rate and review on there as well to help us try and grow all of this, and try and blow this thing up a little bit. And maybe we'll get more viewers, more ears. I'm having a good time either way, but it's always more fun with more people in the chat. Definitely take that into effect. But until then, we'll see y'all next week. Bye.
Bye.